What's up, y'all? Today I wanted to upload a video that I've been trying to record for a while, for over a year now. I had like 10 minutes now, so I figured I'd just go over this quickly so that I could get it out of the way and get this list off of my desktop to free up some storage space. So, without further ado, you saw the title. Let's get into it. I saw 11 films in cinema, in theater, in 2024. And so I ranked them from 11 to 1, so we're going to go through those now. Now, movies that I saw in theaters in 2024, like The Beekeeper, The Watchers, If, and Imaginary, I saw those films at home. Those were films that released in 2024, but I saw them at home. Now, additionally, I saw Return of the Jedi in theaters in 2024, or I think it was Return of the Jedi. That might have been 2023. I saw Lord of the Rings on the re-release that they did. I saw that one in theaters in 2024. So that one's not ranked because it's not a movie that released in 2024. So this ranking is for movies that released in 2024 that I watched in theaters. So releases that were in 2024 that I watched at home will not be on this list, or movies that were released before 2024 that I also saw in theaters. So at the 11th spot, I have Red One. This movie was something else. It was an interesting time. It felt like every bland corporate stereotype of a movie in the 2020s. It had all that MCU humor that was being overdone. It had CGI monsters. It had quippy one-liners and comedic, bromantic banter between the lead actors. Chris Evans, I thought, actually turned in a pretty decent performance overall, but Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was not great. J. Jonah Jameson was probably the standout for me as Santa Claus. It was actually quite fun to see him in that role. There were fun designs to some of the creatures in the prosthetic section, but it was kind of undermined by the rampant CGI used throughout the rest of the movie. So I didn't really like this one. I'd give it like a 4 out of 10. It was passable entertainment, but it just made my brain feel like mush. It made me feel like I was watching slop. At number 10, so we are already in the top 10, is Fly Me to the Moon. This was Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson's film about the backup filming a movie version of the moon landing in case the moon landing itself didn't go right. Woody Harrelson was in this one as well, and I thought he was exceptional. He turned in a great performance. I thought the chemistry between Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson really carried the film. It was the main point of interest that I had in the film. It was the main thing that I cared about. I thought they sold it really well, and Scarlett Johansson is proving that she's a great leading lady. She was really good in this film. She did a great job. Channing Tatum was serviceable as well. And as I mentioned earlier, Woody Harrelson's role in the film felt fun. He was in that slightly antagonistic role. There were a lot of wacky hijinks in this movie, but I would say it was a bit long. It suffered from the weight of its runtime. I think you could have shaved a half hour off of it and had a more truncated version of the story, and that would have been more effective. Because as it stood, it kind of meandered a little bit in the middle section, and then by the time the climax came, I was already ready for it to be over. So if I gave Red One like a 3 or 4 out of 10, I would give Fly Me to the Moon a solid 5.5 to 6 out of 10. I thought it was good. At number 9, I have the documentary film Am I a Racist? This was created by a conservative podcasting pundit, Matt Walsh, who's a very controversial figure. This isn't about his political takes or his opinions, but this is purely about the film that he produced. And the film that he produced was less about, per se, political statements and more about the theme of PC political correctness in our culture and what it's doing for people. He interviewed random people on the streets, and he additionally went to several people who are experts on racism in the United States, and are speakers on it, people who have written books that have sold a lot of money. And the film has genuinely funny moments, genuinely laugh out loud moments. There's a lot of great humor here, and I really resonate with the dry and deadpan delivery of a lot of the humor. The subject matter is definitely going to be offensive for some people. It reminded me of comedies in the early 2000s. It kind of had that vibe to it, the humor, the delivery, the style. I would critique the runtime and the editing. The editing at times is jumpy, and the cuts are a little jarring, so I wouldn't say the movie flowed very well through the whole thing. Overall, it was hilarious, and I did get some laughs out of it. And there were moments that were shocking, that were jaw-dropping moments where it was definitely provocative to get a reaction. It was reactionary. But overall, I thought the film did a good job at being balanced, I would say, and had some genuinely funny moments. I'm kind of the same opinion of Jeremy Johns, his review of the film. I thought there were some issues with the pacing, but as for the humor was probably the standout. But again, some of the editing had a bit of issues. It made the runtime go on too long, and the pacing felt a little all over the place. So I would give Am I Erased probably like a 7 out of 10. Next up is number 8 on the list, and it's A Quiet Place Day One. This is the prequel to A Quiet Place 1 and 2, which were both directed by John Krasinski, actually, I think. At least the first one was. A Quiet Place Day One is the prequel to those films, and I thought it was really good. Joseph Quinn is proving that he can really act. He was in Fantastic Four, Gladiator 2, Stranger Things, and this, and he has great range. Here he's playing like a nervous, almost neurotic Brit who's just out of his element as he's in the U.S. when this apocalyptic disaster has happened and aliens are killing everyone. So this is going back to the first day of the disaster that caused the entire world and the dystopian post-apocalyptic reality of the future A Quiet Place movies. This goes back to the beginning. Lupita Nyong'o, I believe that's her name. Her performance was absolutely fantastic. She was so good. Her emotional resolution to her story and her character arc was done so well. A standout for me is a scene during the thunderstorm where they're just taking turns screaming. It was a exploration, I think, of human agony and human connection, the need for humans to have connection even in disaster, and how much humans can take. So the film did a really good job, and I thought was much better than A Quiet Place Part 2, which I thought was just a meandering mess. So A Quiet Place Day 1 was definitely the superior to that, but not quite as good as the original. But it was really solid, and it was really carried by the performances of Joseph Quinn and Lupita Nyong'o. Very good, very solid. At number 7 on the list is Kraven the Hunter, Sony's last of their Sony's Spider-Man universe films, unless they make more in the future, I don't know. This was starring Aaron Taylor Johnson, ATJ as some call him. He also played Quicksilver in the MCU, so this is his second superhero outing for Marvel. And he was really good in this movie. He did a really good job. He sold me on the menacing hunter vibe. The animal connections were a little weird, but overall I enjoyed the film. I thought the action sequences were probably the standout. There were some genuinely cool kills. It was a mindless turn off your brain, let's watch some fun action. So watching a man chase down a car on the interstate, or jump off of a dam, or throw a bear trap around someone's head, or bite off someone's nose, that's what you're there for. So in that respect, it did succeed in that. It did that really well. As far as deeper story, I don't know that it succeeded that much. There's not a lot deeper going on here. I guess at the core, the film's about his strained relationship with his father, and his brother, the chameleon, takes a integral role as well. Russell Crowe had an interesting accent here. It felt kind of phoned in for me, his performance, but I guess it did lend credibility to the film just having that big name. But I'd say Aaron Taylor Johnson was the standout for being good in his performance for Kraven. I liked it overall. I'd say it was like a 7.5 out of 10. Up next at number 6 is another Sony film, Venom: The Last Dance, the third of the Venom trilogy. And man, it's a tonally bizarre series of movies. The first one was half comedy, half body horror. The second one was just like pure horror thriller and really leaned into the creepy and kind of camp side of Venom. The third one goes like full comedy buddy road trip sci-fi adventure. It's very tonally weird, and then there's moments where it just cuts to a random family where it's like, what's going on here? There's a lot of bizarre narrative choices here. It's all over the place, but it does acknowledge Venom going to the MCU and Spider-Man No Way Home at the beginning of the film, so I was glad they at least addressed that to a degree. This film is carried by Tom Hardy, his portrayal of Eddie Brock, and his portrayal of Venom. It's key to the heart of this film, and it's what the film does well. And I needed more of it. If there was more of it, it could have been higher on this list, because anytime it's comedy between them, it's just golden. He sells it so well to where he's talking to himself, the Jekyll and Hyde dynamic. It's great. But there's a lot of unnecessary stuff with the scientists and the side family, and there's a lot of stuff here that's just fluff, and it's really weird and just came out of nowhere for the third film. There's just a lot of exposition in the background for a threequel. It's very, very odd. But overall, I did have a fun time with this one. I'd say it's probably about an 8 out of 10. Same score, 8 out of 10 is what I'll give for the number 5 spot on this list. Twisters. It was a really fun movie, but at the same time, it was definitely inferior to the original. The original captured lightning in a bottle with the cast, and it just made you feel like you were living in the world. You really felt that the day-to-day life of these people was this twister, this chasing storm, so it's in their blood, and you really felt that. Twisters does a good job in telling a fun story, and it does do a good job in pivoting to where the original team that you're following with end up being the bad team, and you have to switch to the other rival team, which is a fun inversion of what the original one did. The effects are good, but I'd say I felt more trepidation from the original's effects. The original effects held up better, I thought. They just felt more real. This one does feel a bit like a CGI fest at times, but it's carried by Glenn Powell, who turns in a really fun performance. There's other actors who are there, and they're fine. Corin Sweat's in this one, the new Superman actor. He's fine. The lead actress, she was fine. But overall, it's Glenn Powell who really was charismatic in this film. And there's some fun and eccentric characters all around, but he showed kind of the leading man gravitas that kept this film engaging. And he was my main window into the story, I would say. So overall, he was fun in the film, but in terms of writing, I don't think any characters really had a deeper story to them. It was a bit surface level overall, but it was fun. It was a good outing, not as good as the original, but there's a lot of fun stuff here to keep you entertained for a summer blockbuster. So yeah, I give it an 8 of 10. Number 4 is the much anticipated sequel to Gladiator. It's Gladiator 2. Lots of thoughts on this film. Lots. It's very entertaining, and I really think we need more sandal and sword flicks. I really like the Greek, the Roman era of storytelling, stuff like Jason and the Argonauts, Sinbad, Ben-Hur, Troy. Movies like these are very entertaining to me, and I do think we need more of them, so it's why I'm so hyped for the Odyssey next year. Please be good. Please be good. That being said, Gladiator 2 is definitely living in the shadow of its predecessor. The first Gladiator is so much better than Gladiator 2. That being said, Gladiator 2 does do some things well. I was glad it wasn't a just pure remake and that it carried character arcs over from the original. Additionally, keeping with the theme of the original and having a real-life emperor, a historical emperor being in the story with Marcus Aurelius, they do the same thing here with Caraca and Gaia and Caraca. I believe those were the names of the twin emperors. They were real emperors, and Joseph Quin's here again and turning in a wonderful, over-the-top, eccentric performance. Denzel Washington is here too, and he does great. I thought he was a little bit underutilized, honestly, but he turned in a good performance, and I did enjoy him in the role. That being said, there are aspects of the film that I think just copied the original too much. And then performances like Pedro Pascal were just shockingly middling and mediocre, average, which is kind of what I've come to expect from Pascal. So overall, I do feel that the film is fantastic. It's really fun. The directing is really good from Ridley Scott. But overall, there's just something missing, and you can't help but feel that it's an unnecessary film when the original exists, because the original is such a better film. But overall, am I mad at Gladiator 2? Did it damage the legacy of the original? I don't think so. I think it was a fun installment. So I'd give that one probably an 8.5 out of 10. Number 3 is the 4th movie in the Planet of the Apes reboot. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes takes a time skip and goes well beyond the original trilogy, picking up from war centuries later. I like the dystopian world building here, the reveal that humans are still present, and the building of a new society, the distortion of history and the symbol of Caesar and what he stood for, and perverting it into something else. I think that happens in history all the time. I thought it was cool to see it done in Planet of the Apes. Additionally, the effects are absolutely phenomenal. They look great, which is what you've come to expect from the new Planet of the Apes movie. I hope Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes did enough to warrant a sequel, because I'm excited to see where the story would go, as they've set up some interesting threads going forward for human-ape conflict going forward in the story. I thought Noah was a fun and likable protagonist, though his friends, the other apes, I thought didn't have a lot to do, and they were just not that great overall. But that being said, I'm pretty convinced that Noah is a descendant of Caesar, and I hope that they'll reveal that in future films. I thought this film is a great transitional film, transitioning from the original trilogy into a new era that more emulates the original films. So I thought that there's a lot of good stuff going for it. The acting performances, I guess voice acting and motion capture work was done really well. So overall, there's a lot of positives from Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but I do think it's a bit weaker than Dawn and War. But it's about on the level of Rise, in my opinion. So I really did enjoy this film. I'd say it's maybe about a 9 out of 10. Number 2 on this list is an M. Night Shyamalan film, Trap. I'm a sucker for M. Night Shyamalan's films. He's a guy where you love him or hate him. So this is probably a controversial spot to put Trap, as the movie got absolutely flamed on social media. But that being said, I thought the lead acting role was done so well from Josh Hartnett. Josh Hartnett just captures that edgy serial killer persona so well as you're watching him try to figure out how not to get caught. I also thought that the film is very unique in its setup and the way that you know what's going on and you know who the killer is, but you're watching the world unravel around it. I thought that was really cool. I thought the movie was absolutely carried by Josh Hartnett's performance. M. Night Shyamalan's daughter is Lady Raven. She was okay. The cinematography I thought was really fun, and I thought the story beats were really fun. Again, Josh Hartnett carries his film with his acting. His performance is very uneven and all over the place in the perfect way. The film has fun setup, fun exposition, and just ends up being an entertaining and thrilling time. There's some twists in this tale, so it kept me engaged the whole time. I'm just a sucker for M. Night Shyamalan's style of film. So Trap, I would give probably a 9 out of 10. Number 1 is the only 10 of 10 on this list, and it's Dune Part 2. Everything about this is just phenomenal, absolutely peak cinema. It takes everything from the first movie, which I thought was fantastic in Dune Part 1, and it almost elevates it. The pacing to this movie is really tight. It's a long runtime, but it doesn't feel that way. It's not burdened by its own lengthy and prodigious runtime. It managed to stay really succinct, and the story beats flow really well. The pacing is solid in this movie. The acting performances are terrific. Timothée Chalamet really comes into his own and delivers a truly messianic performance. He really gives that weight of messianic identity on his shoulders. You can feel it. You can feel him grappling with his destiny. He plays that really well. The cast around him is obviously amazing, and the cinematography from Denis Villeneuve is always going to be good. It's always fantastic. Denis is a master of his craft by this point, and I'm just super excited for Dune Messiah, the third part that is coming out next year. I think it's going to be absolutely terrific. So Dune Part 2 is by far the best movie that came out in 2024. I thought everything about it was phenomenal, from the world building, the story, the runtime, the pacing. The action sequences were terrific. The set design was great, like on the Harkonnens' home planet in the Gladiator arena. That was done exquisitely. The sandworm sequence with the sandworm taming and riding, so well done. The acting, just everything about it, the costumes, the design, everything about it was just phenomenal. And I think it's setting up a very exciting third film, but we will see. So that's my list of the 11 films that I saw in theaters in 2024, from 11 to 1. And soon, at the end of 2025, so probably sometime early next year, I will make a video sequel, I guess, to this one, where I'll be ranking every film I saw in theaters from 2025. But let me know in the comments, which of these movies from 2024 was your favorite? Which was your least favorite? How would you rank them if you've seen them? What was your favorite film from 2024? Let me know.